Hey, this is Kenny from Kenny's Audiophile Record Reviews. Thank you very much for viewing my channel. Please like and subscribe. I sincerely appreciate that. In this video, I'm going to do a topic that my wife presented to me. I'm always trying to think of topics for these YouTube videos. And when me and my wife were sitting at Disneyland a couple of weeks ago, she brought up this topic, came to her mind, and I thought it was a good idea. Me and my wife are Disneyland annual pass holders, and we go to Disneyland a lot. It's a good place for me to vibe and chill and hang out with my wife. We don't get on a lot of rides. I just love hanging out with my wife at Disneyland. Most beautiful person in the world, my wife. I just love just chilling with her at Disneyland. But she came up with this idea for a video, and it is, if you had to choose one person or band in the music industry, dead or alive, who would you like to meet? The band or person, the individual person, singer or musician or band or group, who would it be? And what item would you get autographed? Again, that person can be dead or alive. And I thought of several choices. I'm going to go through several choices in this video. And also, leave that in the comment section below. Who would you like to meet, dead or alive, and what would and why, and what item would you want autographed? And also, what is the most famous person you ever met in your life? I will reveal that at the end of the video, and I'll reveal my wife's choices and her final choice at the end of this video as well. So the person, dead or alive, in the music industry, whether it's a singer, musician, or a band or group, which one of those would you love to meet, and which item would you get autographed? So I'm going to go through some candidates, and I'm going to eliminate two right off the bat, because I love Rod McEwen. I met him in the late 80s, I think it was 1987, and he actually sent me some items, and I have an autograph note from him. So this I'll always cherish. But if I didn't have it, he would be near the top of my list, Rod McEwen. And also another individual, a singer that I met is Glenn Yarborough. Now, I met him at, I went to a concert in the early 90s. He was doing a free concert in Southern California. My wife didn't want to go, and it was like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hour drive to his concert. So I went by myself, and I took an album with me. And he autographed the album. I cherish this to this day. But he's one of my favorite singers, Glenn Yarborough. He would be on my list, but I already have his autograph. This group, I was a huge fan of their group, and when I was in high school, I still am. Sergio Mendes in Brazil, 66 with Lanny Hall as the lead singer. They would be near the top of my list. Actually, they are. The Queen, Aretha Franklin, would definitely, she has to be on my list. The greatest voice ever, in my opinion. Female voice, Aretha Franklin. This is a super group as far as I'm concerned. Clapton, Baker, Bruce, Cream. I'd love to have this autographed if I can go back in the time machine. One of the greatest jazz musicians of all time. It'd be cool to meet John Coltrane and get this autographed. John Coltrane is on my list. And I love his unique piano style. Very unique. When you hear it, you know it's him. That's Brother Thelonious Monk. This is a mono pressing. I'm going to have to listen to this soon. Thelonious Monk. This person a lot of people haven't heard of. His name is Gary McFarland, and he was played a vibes player, but he sang, hummed, and harmonized to a lot of his songs. Gosh, it was jazz, but it bordered on being outside of jazz because it had like a soft style to it. But I got into his music big time when I was in college, and I have most of his albums. Gary McFarland, the greatest electric guitar player of all time, Jimi Hendrix Experience. What about this one? Having this autographed by all the members of the group. Cannonball Adderley, Miles Davis, Hank Jones, Sam Jones, and the great Art Blakey. Cannonball Adderley, something else. This is a landmark album. Cool to get this autograph and meet the group. Beach Boys, featuring Brian Wilson. Oh, you're going to love these two. Foster Brooks and Patty Duke. I'm just joking. They're not on my list. I was just joking. Although Foster Brooks had a great singing voice. But I was just joking about those two. Just joking. Got to be some, little bit of levity and comedy to this. But this one I'm not joking about. Brother Gil Scott-Heron. I'm not joking about him. This brother was legit. He's on my list. I would love to meet him because he had something to say with his music. Gil Scott-Heron. I would love to meet him. The Rolling Stones, early Rolling Stones. Be cool to meet them and get this autograph. One of my greatest groups of bands of all time. Arthur Lee, Brian McLean, Johnny Echols. Love. This is their groundbreaking Forever Changes album. Be cool to meet. Would have been cool to meet Arthur Lee. Also, brother Isaac Hayes. He's on my list of people I wish I could meet, get autographed. Now this album would be super cool to get autographed. There's some superstars on this record. Stan Getz. This Getz Gilberto album featured Stan Getz, Astra Gilberto, Joao Gilberto, and Antonio Carlos Jobim. This is high on my list to meet the musicians on this album. The king of them all, James Brown. Soul Brother #1. Oh, it'd be cool to meet him and get his autograph. This person was my father's favorite singer of all time, Frank Sinatra. Matter of fact, if I can go in a time machine, I'd get this autograph and present it to my father. And this would be my #1. But it's not #1 on my list. But if my father was still alive, I'd do that. One of my favorite albums, I discovered this album through my brothers, Herbie Hancock and Headhunters. I'd love to meet Herbie Hancock and get Headhunters autograph. Oh, one of my favorite childhood groups, Jim Morrison and the Doors. I'd love to meet that group and get their autographs. Oh, and this iteration of Weather Report with Jaco Pastorius, Wayne Shorter. Man, it'd be cool to get this one autographed. Shorter, Pastorius, Joe Zawinul. That was a fabulous electronic jazz group, fusion jazz group. The Miles Davis Group. Tony Williams, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Miles Davis. I consider this a super group. Miles Davis is high on my list. What about this version of the Miles Davis group? Featuring Bill Evans, Miles Davis, and Cannonball Adderley, John Coltrane, Jimmy Cobb, Wynton Kelly. I don't know. That's high on my list. But what about this version of Miles Davis's group, his Bitches Brew album? The stars on this one. I mean, he had Chick Corea, Lenny White, Miles Davis, obviously, Dave Holland, John McLaughlin. It's cool to meet all these dudes and get this autograph. One of the greatest songwriters of any time, Bob Dylan. Cool to meet him and get that autograph. One of my favorite albums all time. One of my favorite piano players of all time, jazz or otherwise. What can I say? Keith Jarrett. His Cone Concert album. One of the best albums ever recorded as far as I'm concerned. At least in terms of the performance. Now this one is a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. The Beatles. Starr, McCartney, Harrison. John Lennon. The Beatles. This is my favorite pop group of all time. They're just simply the best. I think they're the best pop group ever. And one of my favorite singers of all time, Sarah Vaughan. Okay, but she just had a magnificent voice. Her voice was such that she could sing any style. But the two that I narrowed it down to, and I told my wife before I did this video, is so close, I hadn't even made up my mind before I did the video. It's that close. And before I give you mine, I'm going to give you my wife's choices. Her choices were Garth Brooks, Loretta Lynn. I've seen Loretta Lynn in person. She's a marvelous. I'm not a big country fan, but I've seen Loretta Lynn in person back in the day. Reba McEntire, the Beatles, the Eagles, which is her favorite group, and Journey. My wife chose the Beatles because of their, even though the Eagles are her favorite band of all time, the Beatles, the strength of their output, just that alone, and the magnificence of their presence and their fabulous songwriting. My wife chose the Beatles. However, the Eagles are her most favorite band of all time. But so she chose the Beatles. Now mine comes down to Miles Davis, this version of the Miles Davis group, and it comes down to, if I can hold this, the Beatles. Miles Davis and the Beatles. That's what it comes down to. Sorry for the glare. And it's a very difficult choice. I mean, it's like, for those of you who have multiple kids, and I don't, I just have one, although I have some stepkids through my wife. It is extremely close. Like I said, it's like people who have multiple kids and they have to choose one. But I'm going to go with Miles Davis because it includes Bill Evans, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley. It just has all the guys on here, Bill Evans, Wynton Kelly, Bill Evans, John Coltrane, Jimmy Cobb, Paul Chambers, and the great Miles Davis. So it's a close call between Miles Davis and the Beatles, but by the slightest of edges, I'm going to go with Miles Davis, the group that I most likely would want to meet, and the person, Miles Davis. And the item I get autographed is this UHQR box set. This is the album. Why do I love Miles Davis? He was so important to jazz. I believe this was issued in 1959. In 1959, a lot of people consider the greatest year in jazz. I believe it was 1959. And my father loved jazz, so it has that connection too. And I love jazz. It's almost tied between Miles Davis and the Beatles, but Miles Davis because of what he means to me in terms of the music that I enjoy and vibe to, from Kinda Blue to Bitches Brew, the album Bitches Brew. I just love everything in between and beyond. So it has to be Miles Davis for me because the way I love and vibe to his music. So Miles Davis is the most, and every member of this group on this album, I would love to meet and get this autographed. Now, the most famous person I ever met was, I used to do a lot of running. I've been in some marathons, and back in the day, by the way, not now, 10Ks and 5Ks. I used to run every day. And I ran in this race in Los Angeles, and this person was almost like the celebrity there for the race. And he was in one of my favorite movies, In the Heat of the Night, and also To Serve with Love. And I was able to meet him and get my race number autographed. I'm going to hold this up closely. Hopefully you can see it. But Sidney Poitier, I don't know if you can make that out. Sidney Poitier is the most famous person that I ever met in my life in person. So, what is the most famous person you met in your life in person? Also, who would you want to meet, dead or alive, and why, and what would you get autographed? Please leave your comments in the comment section below. Like I said, this video idea came from my wife, and I thank my wife for that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. But please leave your comments in the comment section below. Thank you very much for viewing this video. God bless, strong love, and peace to all worldwide.